excited today because we have the opportunity to hear from employers who are working with people with disabilities, who are hiring people with disabilities, who are utilizing an untapped pool of resources. And so what we're going to do today is allow each panelist to introduce themselves, and then I will go through the slides, a series of questions that they will answer. After that, what we'll do is we'll open the panel up for you folks to ask them questions, okay? So if you, please, Tom, can introduce yourself.
How much time do I have?
Make it short and simple.
My name's Tom. No. Tom Kakak with Walgreens. In 2000, I work with the READY program, Retail Employees with Disabilities Initiative, which launched in 2006 in our distribution centers and across the United States. The goal there was to get 40% of our workforce to be people with some kind of disability, cognitive or physical. And then in 2010, we moved it. It was so successful in our distribution centers, we've now moved it into the retail, which is what I work with in Tennessee. And that is, the goal is being 10% of our workforce in our retail stores to be persons with disabilities.
I'm Dennis Johnson. I'm with AutoZone Fulfillment Center in Memphis, Tennessee, and our company actually visited a Walgreens facility and saw what they were doing, and our senior management challenged us to start the same kind of program. I'm happy to say in my facility we've got just under 10% of our workforce is people with disabilities. That has taken place in the last 18 months or so.
I'm Susan Johnson with East Tennessee Children's Hospital, and we are the host of the Project Search program at our hospital. This is our second year, and we have a goal of 100% employment for all of our interns through Project Search, but at the hospital itself, we would like to employ 40% of the interns at the hospital who come through the program.
And I'm Stan Martz. I'm with the Kroger Company, located here in Nashville currently. But let me go back just a moment to 2013. That's when we went to Walgreens in Windsor, Connecticut, and we saw a facility there, about 850 people as I recall. 53% of those folks had some known disability. And so much like you were just saying, we were challenged to develop and come up with a program. So for the last year roughly, we have put together a program of hiring people who happen to have disabilities in one of our facilities in Cleveland, Tennessee. We're going to spread that to 2 other locations very soon, one being in Cincinnati. So.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you. Unfortunately, Publix, Bobby Franks wasn't able to join us, so we'll hope to hear from Publix at another time. So first question for
With
our
Kroger, who needs Publix?
Right? I couldn't say that better.
I knew you wasn't going to say it. Somebody needed to say it. No, Publix are good people.
They are. They're very
We
good
just need
guys.
to get the mood going.
All right. Question number 1. Tell us about your first experience employing a person with a disability, and have you hired others since? Take it away, Tom.
Okay. Yes, the very first one, my personal experience. The company had been doing it before I smarted up and figured it out. But my first one was a guy named Michael, and he was a guy with spina bifida in a chair, severely handicapped. And we were able, through our maintenance, to make the reasonable accommodation to take shelves out from under the counter. We could get his chair up under, and we got lowered the register and the keyboard modifications. And no, those are simple. That's the easy fix. But yes, as a matter of fact, he was part-time, didn't want to go full-time because he didn't want to lose benefits, you know, how those fears. But he is now full-time and on his way into a management training career path. Because there's not a job in the store that we didn't ask him to do that he asked us, why don't you let me do that? He trained us in what the abilities are of a person who is severely handicapped in a wheelchair. So yes, and we have hired many, many more since then.
Great. Thank you. Dennis?
I actually hired 2 at the same time, and the reason I did that is I thought they could keep each other company, because I honestly wasn't sure this was going to work. I was doing it because I was challenged to do it. And then I was pleasantly surprised after I got those 2 individuals there I had actually sold them very short of their abilities. They proved every day that they came to work happy, always smiling, and they were very focused on doing a good job. And since then, we've hired 5 more. I now have 7. So, very tickled with the outcome so far.
I've been with Children's Hospital for about 10 years, and when I first went to work there, actually in the department that I was in, there was a lady who was in a wheelchair. She was about 50 years old and had been in a wheelchair since she was 18. And that's really about the only person who comes to mind that if you ask me if we hired someone with a disability in the hospital, no one saw the wheelchair because she was very independent. So there wasn't a whole lot that we had to do as far as accommodations. I'm not even sure if we could really define her as having a disability. I know you can by looking at her, but she did not function that way. And so that really opens your eyes to the potential that is there. So since then, we really haven't done a lot of hiring with disabilities until we started the Project Search program. And last year, when our first program, we had our graduation, we were able to hire 4 or 3 of the 7 at the hospital. And they are, I mean, just like you were saying, they are so happy to be at work. They give all they have. You don't have to worry about will they be there on time, will they show up at all, will they do what they're supposed to do. And so we are really pushing now. Our second group is getting ready to graduate in October. And so again, we're hot and heavy trying to find jobs for them to take. And it's a little bit of an effort to try to find the jobs that will fit in the scope of what they can do. But again, we limit them a lot. And it's amazing to see what all they can do and how much further they push to get the job done. So.
As I think back, we had a lady who happened to be deaf. And on the interview, we had 2 people there. We had an interpreter and we had the person who we were hoping to hire. And that was a little awkward. And what happens in a situation like that, you can get fixated on the person that's translating instead of the person you're trying to hire. But we got through that, and this person happened to be one of the most delightful, engaging people. And before you know it, so many people were attracted to her. And the communications part of the thing, she read some lips, but then we would write notes, we would do different things. And a couple things that I can tell you came out of this. Number one, our people who do the training, it was a little difficult for them at first. They weren't really sure what they needed to do. And the outgrowth of this was they got to be good at that. But not only that, but they got to be good at training the other people that came in if they didn't have a disability. That was a huge, huge thing. So the other part was probably the supervisors. We had a sensitivity training before we started. And even though we did that, we had some supervisors who weren't really sure that there may be some safety concerns. And so we had to work through some of those problems. But what I can tell you is this one person changed our thought process and made it possible for us to hire more people more readily. We just got to find the people now. That's the only catch.
Okay. Great. Moving on to the next question, which is, what were your initial hesitations or concerns with hiring a person with a disability? Tom?
Okay. We're a for-profit company, as these guys are as well. Matter of fact, AutoZone and Kroger, I own stock, so I'm glad they are too. And my fear was, our company holds us to high standards of performance. We got to make a profit. We just have to, or I lose my job. So I was afraid that if I had an employee with some disability and they performed just under the level of expectation that others did, I'd be in trouble. And I'm a nice guy. I could not see myself letting them go, and the tears and the parents and who knows, the guilt that I would feel the rest of my life. And I was really I was concerned about performance and how I would handle underperformers, because I know how to call people in who are not performing and wind them up a little bit. I know how to do that, but I was afraid. I just honestly was. And Tony was autism, high functioning, but autistic, and Tony couldn't get to work. He forgot when he was supposed to show up for work, and a no-show from somebody else. I mean, that they don't last long. But here's Tony, and so that was the second. Michael was the first. Tony was the second. And now what do I do? But it was so easy. My bad. Reasonable accommodation, right? Called the agency that we had worked with to bring Tony in, and they said, oh, well, no problem. The parents are supportive. And so all we did was, whenever we printed the next schedule, we just sent it to the parents. And the parents said, we'll get him there. He couldn't remember his schedule, and if you tried to call him, he had a cell phone, but if you called him, he never would answer. He'd never call you back. But you call the parents, and they just made sure he was there if you had to switch schedules, whatever. A simple thing to do by just changing the phone, but contact phone. If we needed to talk to the employee about a schedule, we just call the parent, not the student. And Tony was always there then, never had a problem ever again. And he was so, as they attest as well, I ditto that. When he was there, he was awesome. So you didn't want to let him go. But my fear was, how do I manage someone who might not, respond the same way other people do? So it was my thing to learn. It wasn't them. Tony was great. I'm the one that needed to learn my lesson. So.
Dennis?
Well, Tom couldn't have said it any better. I faced all the same issues that Tom did. I wasn't sure that these people would come in and could be as productive as everybody else in the facility. So I just take a tour through the facility and just started looking for different activities and different jobs and different things people were doing, and kind of identified, I've got a really outstanding person that has a lot of abilities doing this job, that they're better than that. So I hired the people initially to take over those positions. What we found was, instead of these people working in a workshop where they're doing the same thing every single day, their learning curve is a little bit longer, but once they learn the job, they are so focused on doing a good job that it was amazing. And working in an environment where they're with other people that don't have disabilities, they actually learn from those people. So they started branching out from this job that we started them with, and all of a sudden they started taking on additional responsibilities on their own because they wanted to learn that. It's been wonderful and really rewarding to see these people come in and just kind of blossom. It's really, really cool.
Well, and unlike the companies here, we are a nonprofit hospital, and so money is tight, and our workers, regardless of what the job is, there are a lot of different responsibilities they have. And so where we've compacted a lot of different responsibilities into one job, now we're telling them, okay, we're going to take some of those tasks back away from you. And so a little bit of the hesitation was trying to train our staff into breaking those back down so that we can try to think out of the box a little bit and put a job description together that our project search interns that are hired, that they can do these jobs. Another thing with, you have a lot of parents, obviously, who are stressed if their children are in the hospital. And so there were social skills that we had to really hone in on and try to develop in our interns. And we were really afraid of that at times. And in a couple of situations, there was reason to have some concern, but the majority of it, there was not. In fact, if anything else, it gave our parents hope, especially if you can imagine them being parents of a child with Down syndrome, and a job we came up with was medical support technician, who walks in their child's room and she has Down syndrome, and she's getting the medical chart together, she's telling them where everything is in the hospital, she's helping get linens for them, she's doing whatever they need, and that really gives the parents hope. And so what our hesitations were, we're slowly working, trying to put a model together, and it's working out great.
There were actually two things that we thought about and that were of concern. One was reasonable accommodation. We had feared that we could get into something that could cost a bunch of money for us.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found out was that didn't happen. As a matter of fact, I think probably the most we've spent's been $150. Maybe you might get into $500 somewhere depending on the circumstances, but that didn't happen. Accommodations. The other thing was that was different. We allowed these people where we would have a training curve of so long, we would allow just a little bit more. That was an accommodation, and that was easy to do. And then the labor standard, we have labor standards, and it's the same pay for same jobs with or without accommodation. And what I found was that the majority of the time, it took some retraining in a couple cases. Sometimes the group that brought them to us or had worked with them before helped. Sometimes David Fields here with us today helped. But those were very small things. They were very productive. We did have a couple of people that didn't make it. We had one gentleman that I've never seen anybody work as hard, sweat more profusely, and try so hard, and didn't make it. So you're going to have those kinds of things that do happen. But that was a smaller portion overall.
Great, great. Next question. What have the benefits been to your company for hiring a person with a disability?
How much time do I have? No, I won't. We got 4 people here for comments. I'll just name one big one for us. Your biggest expense in retail is your payroll, and the biggest challenge to payroll is turnover, employee turnover, hiring and training new people, and then they're gone because there's got a date or there's a ball game or they just don't feel like it or they whatever reason, and so turnover, because in retail it's not a high skilled position and there's a lot of turnover. Entry level especially. So the biggest benefit we have seen initially on the retail side is once they learn the job, they love the job, and they not only reduce that turnover rate, which is very expensive and very hard. As a matter of fact, if every employee did their job as well as our disabled people, I would be out of a job because my job is to make sure they're doing their job, right? But they show up and they love it. Early, you kind of have to make them go home sometimes, which you don't have a problem with the others standing 10 minutes before they're done and right at the time clock waiting to punch out. You have to actually have them, it's time to go home now. Okay. But they make great employees, and the whole, their presence among our other team members lifts the morale of the whole team. And the work efficiency and performance and the customer service, they like Michael, the first guy we talked about a while ago, he may not be able to stand up, but he lifted up our whole team at that store and all of our customers too. So the benefit is we get great employees. I mean, we're for profit. We're charitable. We work with Heart Association, Cancer Foundation, whatever, but this isn't charity. We benefit. This is a win-win for us.
Tom and I need to change places because I need to say this first because
We'll start on the other end.
it's kind of interesting that the results are the same. I mean, at both I've never met Tom before,
Yeah.
but what he's saying is exactly what happened at our facility as well. We haven't lost. I think we've lost one person over the 18 months, but I truly believe that the 7 people I've got there right now are going to be long-term employees. That it's not a turnover issue at all. They are so happy to be there. It's the first time in their life that they're actually getting a pretty nice paycheck. I had one of the individuals come into my office one day and he said, "I don't know what to do with all this money." you know. Yeah, it is a good problem, but they have lifted up all the rest of our employees,
And to share your story, you have a story about the volunteers, asking for volunteers.
We have a monthly, we call it an all hands meeting, where we bring everybody into a room like this and we cover what's going on with the company and different things. And we have a lot of charitable work that we do as well. We have a committee and we support different projects. And so I was asking for volunteers to do something. And at that time, I had 4 people with disabilities working there. You know who raised their hand? The 4 people with disabilities. Immediately, they were just ready to do whatever it took to do it.
I would just like to mimic exactly what they've said. I don't think I could add much more to that, except to truly talk more about it will change your other employees. It will change them and broadens their thinking on about people with disabilities. And for us as a hospital, we should have already been there, because a lot of these individuals we probably had in our hospital when they were born or as children and bringing them up, and so we really owe that to them to help them. They are contributing back to society more so than what a lot of our employees do already. So. Again, the morale, if they have a break, if they're off or their family's going on vacation, they really don't want to go. They want to stay there. I don't know of any other employee that we've ever had who said they didn't want to go on vacation, that they wanted to stay. But it will truly make a difference.
I think you're right. I think we could all speak together and it'd be pretty close, any of these points. One of the things that I thought about was, after we started this, we had people that would come up to us that already worked at our place that would say, "I've got this, I've got that." We have a lady in this facility that's an amputee, a fellow who was legally blind. He could see but barely. And then we started hearing from people that work there, "I've got a brother, I've got a sister, I've got a neighbor." And you find out this is more universal than not. But what it does, it lifts up that person, their families, their friends, and their community. And so because of that, if you focus on this sort of program, you build a societal trust. And that's huge. And I didn't realize that at first. I didn't think of that.
Great points. All right, question 4. What would you tell other businesses that are interested in hiring people with disabilities?
Let's start at the other end. Yeah, I understand totally what it is. We're all going to say the same thing, but yeah, go ahead and
Repeat the question.
What
sorry.
would you tell other businesses that are interested in hiring people with disabilities?
I would tell them, number one, you've already got a program. You just don't know it, and you're not doing it very well. No, we weren't. We didn't have a clue.
Good.
We were scared to death. It'll be okay. I would tell them, don't be afraid of this.
Yeah.
Don't worry about I'm going to get sued or
Yeah.
any of those things that come into your mind. It won't happen. And so that's what I would tell them. You already got some kind of program if you have more than 10 people.
Yeah.
You just don't know it.
I would tell them, come visit us at Children's Hospital. Let us show you what our employees are doing that we've hired. It will change your mindset on it. And just to let you know how much, if you're familiar with hospitals at all, we have this accreditation group called the Joint Commission, okay? And when they show up, hospitals are usually scared because you have to do everything perfect, hopefully all the time, but especially when they're there. Our Project Search interns that we have hired and the ones that are doing their internship right now, that is the group that we're not worried about when the Joint Commission shows up. We have all kinds of codes and, there's HIPAA and everything you have to follow. Mm-hmm. They know them. They study them. They take it to heart. Come visit us. We'll show you how things are run at the hospital with those individuals, and that'll take a lot of the fear away. It's like you said, don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, I would tell them, don't be afraid, just go for it. we've in our company we've got a award called the Extra Miler Award, and it's given to it's a peer-based award. The nomination comes from the peers, and it's for someone that goes out of the way and does above and beyond their job for the good of the company, the good of the community, or the good of another AutoZoner. And two of the individuals out of the 7 have already won this award. And I mean, we only give out one a month. It's not something that we just give a lot of them out. And so they've stepped up. And 18 months ago when we started this, if somebody would have told me that those employees would be some of the best employees I've got in the facility, I would have never believed it. I stood out there one day with a bunch of my supervisors just overlooking the whole operation, and I said to one of them, I said, how do we get that same passion with everybody else in here? Because it's just unbelievable.
Dennis, I have a question to that, if it's okay. Oh, sure. Has it helped lift some passion within, just having them work there? Did you see a little bit of, well, they can do it
Absolutely.
with the other employees?
The particular area you're talking about on our shipping dock, we actually saw the level of performance go up, the attitudes go up, because the people are always happy and smiling, and they want to say hi to everybody. And yeah, we saw all that.
Yeah. Tag team with Dennis on that. Yeah. Of the employees who complain and whine and fuss, and not them. And so the people who do whine and fuss are the ones that have nothing to fuss about. And so yeah, they do. They set an example and do the whole thing. Also, speaking of Dennis, is your wife in this room?
No.
I'll tell you how dedicated he is to this cause. Today is his wedding anniversary. And he's from Memphis and talked his wife into coming with him up here. So he's celebrating his wedding anniversary with us. Now that says something good about him.
Yeah, 43 years.
Hey!
Oh, that's awesome.
Says something pretty good about him. Yeah, as far as what to say to other employers, one is if you don't want to send your applicants to me, I'll take them, especially my competitors. But no, the serious side, what I tell employers is, and Dennis alluded to this a while ago too, that training is really the biggest difference. How you train and how long it takes, whatever, depending on what the limitations are that you're facing. Your training may have to be modified. You don't put them through a cookie cutter training based on what their disability is, but other than the training curve may be shorter, maybe longer. Other than that, the work expectation, the performance expectation remains the same. So that's what I tell other employers. Don't lower your standards. You don't have to. You may have to raise them for some of your other people, but you don't have to lower your expectations, but your training may need to be modified. And there we have so many great agencies around here in the state to work with. They're used to coaching these people, and you partner with them, and they will help you in that coaching process to get them up to speed on whatever the job description is, the performance requirements are. But once the training is over, the expectation is the same, performance is the same.
One more question, and that is, what partnerships have helped you successfully employ people with disabilities?
Start in the middle?
Why not?
No.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Okay. Well, obviously, I've been talking about Project Search all day. It is a 9-month internship where right now we've got 7 individuals in the program, and they train at the hospital for 9 months. And during that time, they rotate to 3 different areas, learning different skills. And so we're building a resume for them. They have job coaches on site. Now, our supporting company is the Cerebral Palsy Center. Breakthrough helps the internship that's at UT Medical Center, and this is run through Knox Area Employment Consortium. So we have some fantastic partners with this that helps us do this.
I would say if you're an employer, don't try to do it on your own. We learned real quick when I decided I was going to hire some people with disabilities. It's like, where do I get them from? Because on our application, we don't ask, do you have a disability? So, you know, exactly. So we thank heavens we partnered with a wonderful agency, Serves, and
There you go.
and they were able to come into our facility, walk through, and help us identify jobs that their people could work with, and they provided the job coaches and all that, and we wouldn't be where we're at today had we not taken advantage of working with an agency. And I would tell all employers, don't try to do it on your own.
Boy, I hate to start naming names because I don't want to leave anybody out, but there's a wealth of information. Now, first of all, you can always call me. I don't know anything, but I know the people who do. And I can get you connected whatever part of the state or country you're in. There are people who will help you get to where you need to go and a contact that need to contact. So again, I serve on the State Rehabilitation Council along with Amy, and hey, high fives. And part of our role there is to support vocational rehabilitation in the state. And so if you get a hold of anybody in the SRC, the State Rehabilitation Council, we can help guide you. And there's agencies everywhere. Obviously, there's the TRC in Smyrna, but there's the ARC, and there's South Central Tennessee Workforce Alliance. And again, once I start, I'll leave somebody out, and then I'll be in trouble. So, but there are tons of agencies out here who are professionals at working with these people. And if you're an employer or know an employer that's a little bit nervous, there are resources available. I'm sure, AutoZone and Kroger and the Children's Hospital, we have people who can talk to your people, who can work out all of the questions and concerns and everything else. But just reach out. Don't sit there and worry about what you don't know. There are plenty of people. All of us are passionate about this. Once you get into it, it's a disease. We've got it. And we're glad to share that disease. It's communicable, so be careful. No cure for it, so terminal illness here. But just reach out. There are plenty of resources available.
Our first install, of course, has been Cleveland, Tennessee, a small community, more or less, and Tennessee Vocational Rehabilitation, TRC there, is who we've worked with nearly exclusively. And I'd have to say that a big part of our success has been David Fields with Tennessee Employment Corporate Connections. And those were fundamental. One thing we did do, and I think I need to point this out, one of the areas that we focused on in our facility was a piece pick area that was an automated kind of setting. And we built up a mock that we supplied to the vocational rehabilitation group. We've tried to work with other groups, but that's pretty much our story.
All right, well, I'd like to thank our employers for participating in the panel. Couple questions? We have time for a couple of questions. So is there anybody that would like to ask our panel? Jeremy?
Thanks. First of all, I wanted to say thank you all for being here. Also wanted to say that I am personally inspired by your commitment to workplace diversity and hiring people with disabilities. I love that for a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons I really enjoy that is because it means that your businesses and organizations are truly reflective of the communities in which you operate. And so my big question for you is, in your opinion, what would it take for all businesses and organizations in our community to be reflective of the communities in which they operate?
Whoever wants to start.
That's a good one.
I think, it's hard to mandate anything like this. I wouldn't even suggest that there be some kind of a bill or you name it. I think it's a social consciousness of the folks that are in charge of that group. I mentioned the societal trust. That's what you develop when you do this. I think it's a consciousness I think it's something more than just feeling like I got to do this program. You got to want to do it for the right reasons. So that's a tough thing. How would you spread it to other companies? By folks like us here talking to other employers and assuring them it'll be okay. You can do it. I did it, and that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say that we all need role models, and companies do as well. The reason AutoZone got into this program is we went and visited Walgreens, and they had a gentleman there, a vice president called Randy Lewis, who is, oh my God, he's a savior.
He had a son
And-
with autism.
and-
That's his
and-
motivation.
And just to see what they were able to do there, and so I would encourage, if you know somebody, our facilities are open. Come see us.
One more question? Anyone?
More of a comment.
All right, let's hear it, Lynette.
So I just wanted to make a point of saying that Bob Nicholas has done really great work on putting together employer profiles on several of these businesses, and he's actually working on the one for Project Search now. So AutoZone is on our website if you'll. So, and are you happy with your profile?
Yes, it's wonderful.
And we did one on Kroger, Peyton's, and do you like your profile?
I'll say this, internally, we got a lot of positive feedback, but now externally, we even had somebody from Italy that had seen that, believe it or not, that
It's
asked
the
us about
power
it.
of the web.
Yeah.
And so it's on our employer webpage so that people can find it there. And we are continuing to look for success stories to get those out there. And it's great to partner with DIDD. The fact that you're taping this means that more people are going to get to hear the kinds of things that you've said. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynette.
We are like to do one on Ready as well. So we were waiting to make sure that Ready was still going to make it through.
The ready was ready.
Oh, yeah, Ready's ready. Yeah, just for what it's worth on the Ready program, they have asked us not to run any programs between October 1st and December 31st during the Christmas season, because our stores are so busy to focus on training outside people. But January 1 will be rolling again, headstrong. Yes, Ready is rolling, and we're committed to the program 100%. I'll be glad to connect you with the people, our media people, or whoever you need to talk to.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the employers.
Thank you.